But once again, he said that it's impossible to prognosticate what's going to happen in the future. And I'm suggesting that that is entirely the problem. You are asking the firearm industry members that are involved in this language, starting on line 45 through line 51, you're telling them that they have to set up reasonable controls. Reasonable defined by who? You can say it's defined by them, but it's not. It will be defined by someone else in the future in the courtroom. Okay? And they have to establish those reasonable controls that they don't know what they are, because they're not really established by them. They'll be established by a courtroom later. Implement. Same thing. You have to implement reasonable controls that you don't know what they are. And then you also have to enforce reasonable controls that you don't know what they are. And I understand what the good senator is saying, that this is context dependent. And I get that. We don't know the context. I'm a firearm industry member. I'm engaged in commerce with my colleagues, other industry members every day, with the public. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't have a crystal ball. I cannot predict whether someone's going to do something or there's an accident that's going to occur. I have no idea. So how can I possibly know whether I've put in reasonable controls? I can't. There is no way for me to know. No matter how many controls I put into place, the only control I really have is to simply stop. I'd have to stop all commerce with my colleagues and the public. I'd have to, because there's no other reasonable control to suggest that you can prevent anything from happening. And that's what this bill requires. It requires someone to put in controls that will be determined whether they were reasonable later, based on context that hasn't occurred yet. It's unfair to do that to anyone. And to do it on a standard where you have to actually make a deduction about the other person in your transaction, right? So the firearm industry member has to actually be looking at his customer or the wholesaler or distributor and saying, do I have reasonable cause to believe that if I make this transaction, that this person's not going to engage in some criminal behavior or lead to some sort of event where I might be liable? How do you do that without knowing what's going to happen in the future? And the answer is you can't. You can't. And I'm going to say one other thing here that is even more provocative than all of this, which is now you've created a situation where you're asking that gun store owner, firearm industry member, wholesaler, distributor, whoever, you're asking them to discriminate now. You're asking them to start weighing whether or not they want to serve another customer. Because now they have to look at people differently. They have to decide whether this person's actually a risk to transfer the firearm to. So you're creating a situation where you're going to force people in this industry in order to protect themselves based on the unknown to go ahead and actually discriminate against people. I find this, again, without repeating myself, it's over the top.